I never expected my 25-year marriage to end on Twitter. But that's exactly how it happened. My name is Rebecca Mitchell, and until 6 months ago, I was the loyal wife of Senator James Mitchell. 25 years I stood beside him, through every campaign, every scandal, every late night. The day started like any other. I was preparing for James's fundraising gala, the one that would launch his re-election campaign for a third term. I had spent weeks on the details, the flowers, the seating arrangements, the menu. Everything had to be perfect. James had been distant lately, disappearing for hours, claiming meetings that weren't on his calendar. But I trusted him. I always trusted him. I was in our walk-in closet, deciding between two dresses, when my phone buzzed. 5 notifications in a row, all from friends. "Rebecca, call me ASAP." "Are you okay?" "Is this true?" Then came a text from my son Michael, with a screenshot of James's Twitter account. My hands trembled as I read the words that would shatter my world. "After many years together, Rebecca and I have realized we are on different paths. It's time we acknowledge this publicly. I'm filing for divorce and beginning a new chapter. I ask for privacy during this transition." Privacy. He asked for privacy after announcing our divorce to his 2.3 million followers. I sank to the floor, designer dresses forgotten as the room spun around me. The phone buzzed again. Another text from Michael, "Mom, turn on TMZ." With trembling fingers, I grabbed the remote and switched on the bedroom TV. The headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen: "Senator Mitchell steps out with elite socialites star Amber Green." There was my husband, the man who had just digitally divorced me, walking hand in hand with a woman nearly 20 years my junior. Amber Green. I knew her from that ridiculous reality show, Elite Socialites. The camera caught them laughing, looking into each other's eyes as they entered an exclusive restaurant. The host called it true love. True love. After 25 years of marriage, 2 children, and a career I had sacrificed. James had found true love with a reality TV star. The doorbell rang, jolting me from my shock. I couldn't face whoever was there not like this, with mascara-stained cheeks and shaking hands. But the ringing continued, insistent. I dragged myself up, smoothed my hair, and made my way downstairs. Through the peephole, I saw David Thompson, James's campaign manager. I opened the door just enough to show my face. "David, Rebecca, we need to talk about the situation." His voice was calm, businesslike, as if discussing a minor scheduling conflict. "Situation," I managed to say. "You mean how my husband just divorced me on social media?" David shifted uncomfortably, adjusting his glasses. "David, James wanted me to discuss the transition with you, for the campaign's sake. We need to handle this efficiently." I laughed, a hollow, painful sound. "Efficiently? I just found out my marriage is over from Twitter, and you want to discuss efficiency?" David cleared his throat. "David, James would like you to vacate the house by the end of the week. The campaign needs to use this space for events." I stepped back, stunned. "This is my home." "David, actually, it's owned by the Mitchell Family Trust. James has legal rights." I slammed the door in his face. My phone started ringing immediately. "James." After 25 years, he couldn't even tell me to my face that our marriage was over. I declined the call and slid down against the door, hugging my knees to my chest. How did I get here? I met James in college. I was studying education, planning to become a teacher. He was in pre-law, charismatic and ambitious, with dreams of changing the world. When we married, I put my career on hold to support his first campaign. "Just until I get established," he said. "Then you can go back to teaching." But there was always another campaign, another reason I needed to be the perfect political wife. I raised our children, Emily and Michael, while James built his career. I hosted the dinners, attended the charity events, smiled for the cameras. I became what he needed me to be. And now I was disposable. The next morning, the doorbell rang again. This time, it was Mark Jenkins from James's legal team. "Mark, Mrs. Mitchell, I have documents for you to sign." His face betrayed no emotion as he handed me a thick envelope. I took it without opening it. "Mark, Senator Mitchell is prepared to offer a generous settlement if this can be handled quickly and quietly." I looked at him, this man who had dined at my table dozens of times. "I'll have my lawyer review these." "Mark, the senator would prefer—" "I don't care what he would prefer," I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "I'll have my lawyer contact you." After he left, I called the only attorney I knew who wasn't connected to James, my college roommate, Sarah. "Sarah." "Those bastards," she said after I explained the situation. Don't sign anything. I'm on my way. Sarah arrived 2 hours later. Her designer suit and sharp eyes a reminder of why she was one of Boston's top divorce attorneys. She reviewed the documents while I paced the living room. Sarah, they're trying to rush you into a bad deal. This offers about a third of what you're entitled to, and the NDA is ridiculous. She pointed to a clause in the document. Sarah, this would prevent you from speaking about James negatively in any way. You couldn't even mention the Twitter divorce. I sat down heavily. He wants to erase me. Sarah reached over and squeezed my hand. Sarah, not happening. We're going to fight this. That afternoon, I received a text from my daughter, Emily. Mom, we need to talk. Hope fluttered in my chest. Emily was 23, just starting her career in New York. She had always been closer to James, sharing his ambition and drive, but surely she would support me now. We agreed to FaceTime that evening. When her face appeared on my screen, I could see she had been crying. Emily, Mom, Dad told me what's been going on. I tensed. What did he tell you? Emily, that you've been drinking a lot, that you threatened to make a scene at his campaign events. My mouth fell open. Emily, that's not true. None of that is true. She looked away, uncomfortable. Emily, he showed me the texts, Mom, where you threatened him. What texts? I never sent any texts like that. Emily's expression hardened. Emily, I know things have been hard for you, but lying doesn't help. Dad says you need help, and I agree. Tears burned in my eyes. Your father announced our divorce on Twitter. He's been seeing a 29-year-old, and you think I'm the one who needs help. Emily shook her head. Emily, Dad says you'd try to turn me against him. I can't do this right now. The screen went black as she ended the call. I sat there, staring at my reflection in the dark screen, feeling more alone than ever. My phone buzzed with the text from Michael, my son. Mom, I know Dad is lying. I'm on your side. Call me. At least one of my children could see through James's manipulation. That night, I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through social media, torturing myself with images of James and Amber. They were everywhere, attending a charity gala, leaving a trendy restaurant, shopping on Newberry Street. The comments were brutal. Upgrade. Can you blame him? Look at her. Politics' hottest power couple. I threw my phone across the room. The next day, Sarah helped me find an apartment. It was small but elegant, paid for with the emergency fund I had maintained separately from our joint accounts. James had never understood why I insisted on having my own money. Now I knew. As I packed my clothes, I came across photos from our life together. Our wedding day, James beaming as he looked at me. Emily's graduation, all of us smiling proudly. Family vacations where we genuinely seemed happy. Had it all been a lie? Or had he simply changed? The morning I was scheduled to move out, I found a gossip magazine on my doorstep. The cover featured James and Amber, with the headline, Senator's New Love, Rebecca was holding him back. I flipped to the article, my hands shaking. Inside was an exclusive interview where Amber claimed James had been emotionally isolated in our marriage. Amber. Rebecca just didn't understand the demands of his position. James needs someone who can be a true partner in his political journey. As if I hadn't been exactly that for 25 years. The article painted me as unstable, difficult, a burden James had carried for years. The last paragraph quoted an anonymous source close to the senator, claiming I had substance abuse issues and had been in and out of treatment facilities. Pure fiction, but crafted to destroy my credibility if I fought back. I showed the magazine to Sarah when she arrived with the movers. Sarah, this is character assassination. We can sue for defamation. But I knew a lawsuit would only drag things out, keep me tied to James. I just want to move forward, I said. Sarah studied my face. Sarah, what are you planning? Rebecca. I managed a small smile. I'm not sure yet, but James has no idea who he's dealing with. As the movers packed up my life, I noticed a car parked across the street. Inside was a photographer, lens aimed at our house. I straightened my shoulders and walked out the front door, head held high. Let them take their pictures. Let them spin their stories. They thought I would crumble. They thought I would hide. But 25 years as a political wife had taught me something about survival, about strategy, about waiting for the right moment. James had declared war, and I was just getting started. 3 weeks after moving into my apartment, I was still barely functioning. I alternated between crying on the bathroom floor and staring blankly at the walls. Each new photo of James and Amber felt like a fresh wound. My phone rang with Sarah's distinctive ringtone. Sarah, Turn on MSNBC now. I fumbled for the remote. There was James, sitting across from the interviewer, looking somber in his navy suit, the one I had picked out for him last Christmas. Interviewer: Senator Mitchell, your private life has been very public lately. Can you tell us about your decision to end your marriage? James nodded gravely. James: It was the hardest decision of my life. Rebecca and I grew apart over the years. Sometimes people change, and you have to make difficult choices. Interviewer: And your relationship with Amber Green? James smiled, that practiced, camera-ready smile I knew so well. James: Amber and I connected through our shared passion for public service. She's been instrumental in my homeless youth initiative. I laughed bitterly. Amber Green had never shown interest in public service until she met James. Her charity work consisted of photo ops at galas. Interviewer: There's been speculation about your ex-wife's well-being. Any comment? James's expression shifted to concern. James: Rebecca has been struggling for some time. I've tried to protect her privacy, but I hope she gets the help she needs. I threw a pillow at the TV. Help, I need you lying. Manipulative. My phone rang again. An unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. Hello? Woman's voice. Mrs. Mitchell. This is Lisa Chen from the Modern Woman podcast. I'd like to invite you to share your side of the story. I hesitated. James's legal team had made it clear if I spoke publicly, they would fight me on every aspect of the divorce. But watching him on TV, crafting his false narrative, I'll do it, I heard myself say. Lisa: Wonderful. We record tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'll email you the details. I called Sarah immediately. Sarah, are you sure about this? Rebecca James will retaliate. Let him, I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. I'm done being silenced. The next day, I sat in Lisa Chen's studio, heart pounding as a technician clipped a microphone to my blouse. I had chosen my outfit carefully, a simple blue dress, minimal jewelry, nothing that could be used to paint me as frivolous or unstable. Lisa smiled warmly as she adjusted her headphones. Lisa, we're live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to The Modern Woman. I'm Lisa Chen, and today I'm joined by Rebecca Mitchell, who has been in the headlines recently after her husband, Senator James Mitchell, announced their divorce on Twitter. Rebecca, thank you for being here. I took a deep breath. Thank you for having me, Lisa. Lisa, let's start with the obvious question. How did you feel when you learned about your divorce through social media? Devastated, I said honestly. Imagine finding out your 25-year marriage is over because your friends are texting you about your husband's Twitter announcement. Lisa, had there been discussions about separation before this? None, I said firmly. We had our challenges like any couple, but James never once mentioned divorce. I recounted the events of the past weeks, the abrupt eviction from my home, the smear campaign, the attempts to turn my children against me. My voice broke when I spoke about Emily. The hardest part is seeing my daughter believe these lies. I've always been there for her, and now, I wiped away a tear. Lisa, Senator Mitchell has suggested you've been struggling with personal issues. Would you like to address that? I straightened in my chair. Those allegations are completely false. I don't have substance abuse issues. I haven't been in and out of treatment facilities. These are calculated lies designed to discredit me. Lisa, why do you think the senator has taken this approach? Control, I said without hesitation. James has always controlled the narrative. When I wouldn't quietly accept the terms he offered, he decided to destroy my credibility. As the interview continued, I found my voice growing stronger. I spoke about the years I'd dedicated to supporting James's career, the sacrifices I'd made, the person I'd set aside to be the perfect political wife. By the time we wrapped up, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Lisa, thank you for your candor. Rebecca, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? I looked directly at her. Just this: I may have lost my husband, but I haven't lost myself, and I'm just getting started. Within hours, clips from the interview were trending on social media. Stand with Rebecca was the #1 hashtag on Twitter. The comments on James's post shifted dramatically. How could you treat your wife this way? 25 years and you announce it on Twitter, classless. Rebecca deserves better. The next morning, my doorbell rang. When I opened it, I found a striking woman in her 40s with a sharp bob and determined eyes. Woman, Rebecca Mitchell, I'm Diane Foster with Women for Change. We need to talk. I let her in, curious. Diane explained that her organization supported women running for office. Diane, our polling shows James is vulnerable. His approval numbers are tanking after your interview. I shook my head, confused. I'm not sure what this has to do with me. Diane smiled. Diane, we want you to run against him. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. But Diane wasn't laughing. Diane, you know his weaknesses. You understand the district. And right now, you have public sympathy. It's a powerful combination. I'm not a politician, I protested. Diane, you've been in politics for 25 years, just not as the candidate. Think about it. After she left, I dismissed the idea as absurd. Me, run for Senate, against James. But that night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about James's policies, how they'd shifted over the years, how he'd abandoned causes he once championed, how the power had changed him. I thought about the people in our district who were struggling, the education funding James had voted to cut, the health care bill he'd opposed that would have helped thousands of families. Maybe Diane was right. Maybe I did have something to offer. The next morning, Michael called. Michael, Mom, I saw your interview. You were amazing. His support warmed my heart. Thanks, honey. I'm just trying to set the record straight. Michael, I have something to tell you. Something about Dad. My stomach tightened. What is it? Michael, I've been working at his office part-time, filing papers. I've seen things. Mom, things that don't add up. He lowered his voice. Michael, there are meetings that aren't on the official calendar, payments that don't make sense. I gripped the phone tighter. Michael, be careful. I don't want you getting in trouble. Michael, I will, but Dad isn't who people think he is. You could expose that. After we hung up, I called Diane. If I did this, and I am not saying I will, what would it look like? We met that afternoon at a quiet cafe. Diane outlined a plan, announce my candidacy within the month. Focus on James's voting record rather than our personal drama. Position myself as the candidate who truly understood the district's needs. As she spoke, I found myself nodding. This wasn't just about getting back at James. It was about standing up for what I believed in, for the issues I'd quietly supported while smiling beside him at events. Diane, there's one more thing. We'd need to address the personal stuff head-on in your announcement. Get it out of the way, then pivot to policy. I took a deep breath. I'll do it. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. I met with Diane's team to craft my campaign message. I studied James's voting record, identifying where he'd failed our constituents, and I prepared for the backlash I knew would come. Michael continued to feed me information discreetly, careful not to raise suspicion. It was during one of our conversations that he dropped a bombshell. Michael, Mom, I found something big. 3 years ago, Dad was involved in a hit-and-run accident. He was driving home from a fundraiser, had been drinking. He hit a pedestrian, a 19-year-old college student. My blood ran cold. Was the student okay? Michael, severe injuries. But here's the thing, Dad never reported it. His team covered it up, paid the family to stay quiet. The official story was that the kid was hit by an unidentified driver. I felt sick. Can you prove this? Michael, I have copies of the settlement papers, and there's more. Dad's been taking money from Horizon Pharmaceuticals, millions funneled through shell companies. They're the ones behind that bill that made it harder for people to afford medication. I sat down, stunned. All those years, I'd believed in James, defended him, and he'd been lying about far more than just our marriage. The day before my campaign announcement, I received an unexpected text. We need to talk. It's important. Meet me at Riverside Park, 3 p.m., Amber. Every instinct told me not to go. It was probably a trap, but curiosity won out. I arrived at the park, choosing a bench in a public area where plenty of people could see us. Amber showed up 10 minutes late, oversized sunglasses hiding half her face. She sat beside me without greeting. Amber, I know what you're planning. Her voice held none of the confidence I'd seen in her interviews. And what's that? I asked coolly. Amber, running against James, going public with what you know. She glanced around nervously. Amber, I have information too, things that could help you. I studied her carefully. Why would you help me? Amber removed her sunglasses, revealing a faint bruise near her eye, poorly concealed with makeup. Amber, James isn't who I thought he was. My stomach lurched. Did he do that to you? She looked away. Amber. Not directly. He has people who handle problems. I became a problem when I asked too many questions about his business dealings. I didn't know whether to believe her. What do you want, Amber? Amber. Protection. When this all comes out, James will try to pin everything on me. I need you to make sure that doesn't happen. I considered her offer. I can't promise anything until I see what information you have. She handed me a thumb drive. Amber. Everything's on here. Just be careful. James is dangerous when he's cornered. As she stood to leave, I asked the question that had been burning inside me. Was any of it real between you and James? Amber paused. Amber. He was charming, powerful, made me feel special. She gave a bitter laugh. Classic predator playbook. Right, I was too naive to see it. She walked away, leaving me with more questions than answers. That night, I reviewed the files on the thumb drive. Emails between James and pharmaceutical executives. Bank statements showing mysterious deposits. Photos of James with people he publicly claimed not to know. It was damning. But could I trust information from Amber? Could this be another trap? I called Sarah and filled her in. Sarah, even if everything on that drive is legitimate, using it is risky. We need to verify it independently. I agreed. We needed absolute proof before making any accusations. The next day was my campaign announcement. I chose a community center in a neighborhood James had neglected. As I stepped up to the podium, facing the gathered press and curious locals, my heart pounded. I took a deep breath and began. My name is Rebecca Mitchell. For 25 years, I stood beside Senator James Mitchell as his wife and partner. I believed in him. I supported his career. I raised our children while he pursued his ambitions. I paused, looking directly into the cameras. 6 weeks ago, I learned from Twitter that my marriage was over. Since then, I've been evicted from my home, separated from my daughter, and subjected to a smear campaign designed to discredit me. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But this announcement isn't about my divorce. It's about our district. It's about the people Senator Mitchell has forgotten while pursuing power and wealth. I outlined my platform: education investment, healthcare access, environmental protection, policies James had once supported before corporate interests swayed him. I'm announcing my candidacy for the United States Senate, not as James Mitchell's ex-wife, but as a citizen who believes we deserve better representation, someone who will put people before power, truth before convenience. The crowd erupted in applause. As I stepped away from the podium, reporters shouted questions. Mrs. Mitchell, is this about revenge? How will your personal history affect your campaign? I turned back to the microphone. This isn't about revenge. It's about responsibility. For 25 years, I watched how politics works from the inside. I've seen the deals made behind closed doors. It's time to bring those dealings into the light. The response was immediate. News outlets across the country picked up the story. Senator's ex-wife launches rival campaign. Rebecca Mitchell, from political spouse to candidate. Divorce drama heads to the ballot box. James's response came through his campaign manager, a terse statement claiming I was exploiting a private family matter for political gain. But the polls told a different story. A week after my announcement, I was trailing James by just 12 points, an incredibly narrow gap for a first-time candidate running against an incumbent. His team was getting nervous. 3 days later, I attended a charity gala I had helped organize years earlier. I hadn't planned to go, but Diane insisted it would be good optics. I wore a simple black dress and entered with my head high, ignoring the whispers and stares. Halfway through the event, I felt a hand on my arm. I turned to find Amber, dressed in a shimmering gold gown, her expression tense. Amber, we need to talk, now. She pulled me into a quiet alcove. Amber. James knows about the thumb drive. He knows I gave you information. Fear flashed in her eyes. Amber. He's planning something, I don't know what, but he told his team they have insurance against you. I studied her face, still uncertain if I could trust her. Why are you telling me this? Amber's eyes hardened. Amber. Because I made a mistake getting involved with him, but I won't be part of destroying someone else. He's already threatening to release altered photos of me if I don't stick to his script. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Amber, you can have my relationship with James, but you can't have my dignity. Before I could respond, she slipped back into the crowd. I stood there, processing her warning. What insurance did James think he had against me? What else might he do to protect his position? As I left the gala, reporters shouted questions. Rebecca, how does it feel seeing Amber here? Any comment on James's latest poll numbers? I paused, facing the cameras. The only thing I'll say is this: Our campaign is about transparency and integrity, values that seem to be in short supply these days. Back in my apartment, I called Michael. We need to accelerate our timeline. James knows we have information. Michael, I'm on it. Be careful. Mom, Dad's desperate. And desperate people do dangerous things. I hung up, staring out at the city lights. The campaign was gaining momentum. Volunteers were signing up. Donations were flowing in. But James had resources and connections I couldn't match. And he was willing to play dirty. The question wasn't if he would strike next, but when, and whether I would be ready when he did. The first debate was scheduled for a Tuesday evening at the city's main convention center. For weeks, I had prepared, studying James's voting record, practicing responses to likely attacks. My team had grown from just Diane and a few volunteers to a full campaign staff. We had an office now, bustling with activity. Signs with my name appeared in yards across the district. But James still led in the polls, if only by 8 points. And his team had been suspiciously quiet lately. As I reviewed my notes in the green room, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Check your email, urgent. I opened my inbox to find a message with a video attachment. My blood ran cold as I watched. It was footage of me, clearly taken with a hidden camera in my apartment. I was alone, crying, a glass of wine in my hand. The footage had been edited to make it appear I was talking to myself, ranting. With horror, I realized this must have been from those first dark days after the divorce. I called Michael immediately. Where did you get this? Michael. Dad's team is circulating it to news outlets. They're claiming it shows you're unstable, unfit for office. It's been edited. Mom, heavily. I closed my eyes, fighting back panic. Can we prove it's been manipulated? Michael. I'm working on it, but they're planning to release it tonight, right before the debate. I took a deep breath. I need to get ahead of this. I called Diane and explained the situation. We quickly formulated a plan. An hour before the debate, I held an impromptu press conference. I've learned that Senator Mitchell's campaign plans to release doctored footage of me, taken illegally in my private residence during the painful aftermath of my divorce. Reporters leaned forward, recording devices extended. Rather than address the issues that matter to voters, my opponent has chosen to invade my privacy and manipulate content to portray me as unstable. This is not just an attack on me, but on every person who has experienced grief and trauma. I looked directly into the cameras. I challenged Senator Mitchell to explain why his campaign is using illegally obtained footage rather than defending his record. As I finished, my phone buzzed with notifications. The hashtag privacy violation was trending. Supporters were rallying to my defense. When I stepped onto the debate stage that evening, the atmosphere was electric. James refused to make eye contact as we took our positions. The moderator introduced us, and the debate began. The first questions focused on policy healthcare, education, the economy. I presented my platform clearly, highlighting where James's votes had hurt our constituents. He responded with practiced talking points, avoiding direct answers. Then came the question I had been waiting for. Moderator. Senator Mitchell, your campaign has been accused of obtaining and planning to release private footage of Mrs. Mitchell. How do you respond? James adjusted his tie, his face a mask of concern. James, I have no knowledge of any such footage, but I will say that voters deserve to know whether candidates are stable and capable of serving. I jumped in. Interesting that you claim no knowledge, James, when the footage was recorded in an apartment I moved into after our divorce, an apartment only a few people knew about. Would you like to explain how cameras were installed there without your knowledge? James's face tightened. James, Rebecca is clearly trying to distract from the real issues with these unfounded accusations. I smiled thinly. I think the real issue is a sitting senator potentially authorizing illegal surveillance of a private citizen. But let's move on to your voting record on healthcare, shall we? Throughout the debate, I kept my composure, even as James grew increasingly agitated. When given the opportunity for closing statements, James went on the attack. James, voters deserve the senator with experience and stability, not someone running a campaign based on personal grievances and conspiracy theories. Rebecca Mitchell is a bitter woman trying to use this election for revenge. When my turn came, I looked directly at James for the first time. Tonight, Senator Mitchell called me bitter. He suggested I'm running out of vengeance. I want to be clear, I am not running against James Mitchell because he was my husband. I am running against him because I know, better than anyone, that he has forgotten why he sought office in the first place. I turn to the audience. I've spent 25 years watching how power can corrupt, how principles can be compromised, how public service can become self-service. I'm running because our district deserves better. I'm running because I still believe in the ideals James Mitchell abandoned along the way. The crowd erupted in applause. Post-debate polls showed the race in a dead heat. The next morning, as I arrived at campaign headquarters, Diane rushed to meet me. "Diane, you need to see this." She handed me her tablet, displaying a breaking news story. Reality star Amber Green accuses Senator Mitchell of coercion and intimidation. The article detailed Amber's allegations that James had pressured her into their relationship, using her career aspirations as leverage. More damning, she claimed he had involved her in illegal activities, using her to deliver payments to individuals she later learned were connected to the hit-and-run cover-up. I sat down heavily. "Did you know she was going to do this?" Diane shook her head. "Diane completely blindsided us. But it's shifting the narrative. James's team is in damage control mode." Throughout the day, the story expanded as other women came forward with similar accounts of James's behavior. His poll numbers plummeted. 3 days before the election, James held a press conference. He looked haggard, his usual confidence replaced by barely concealed desperation. "James, the allegations against me are false. This is a coordinated attack by my ex-wife's campaign, designed to distract from the real issues." A reporter called out, "Senator, the allegations come from Amber Green, who until recently was your girlfriend. Are you saying she's working with your ex-wife?" James's face reddened. "James, Miss Green is clearly upset about our breakup and is lashing out." Another reporter, "What about the hit-and-run allegations? Can you confirm your whereabouts on the night in question?" James abruptly ended the press conference, ignoring shouted questions as he rushed off stage. The final days of this campaign were a blur of rallies, interviews, and last-minute appeals to voters. My team's internal polling showed me pulling ahead, but we took nothing for granted. The night before the election, I received a text from an unknown number. "Check your email, proof of everything, A." In my inbox was an email from Amber containing audio recordings of James discussing the hit-and-run, the pharmaceutical deals, and plans to discredit me. I forwarded it to our campaign's legal team and to several trusted journalists. Election day dawned crisp and clear. I voted early, cameras flashing as I exited the polling station. Reporter, "Mrs. Mitchell, how are you feeling today?" I smiled. "Hopeful, whatever happens. I'm proud of the campaign we've run and the issues we've highlighted." As polls closed that evening, I gathered with my team to watch the results. Michael was by my side, his presence a comfort as we waited. The early numbers showed James with a slight lead in traditionally conservative precincts. But as urban and suburban results came in, the gap narrowed, then reversed. By 10 p.m., multiple networks had called the race. In a stunning upset, Rebecca Mitchell has defeated incumbent Senator James Mitchell. The room erupted in cheers. Supporters embraced, some crying with joy. Michael hugged me tightly. "Michael, you did it. Mom, you actually did it." My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you. Can we talk tomorrow? Love you." Tears welled in my eyes as I texted back, "Anytime, love you too." James never called to concede. Instead, his campaign issued a terse statement congratulating me and announcing he would cooperate with a smooth transition. The following day, news broke that federal investigators had opened an inquiry into James's financial dealings based on new evidence. The hit-and-run victim's family came forward, revealing the settlement and cover-up. James's carefully constructed image collapsed completely. 2 weeks later, I sat in my new Senate office, still adjusting to the reality of my position. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Emily stood there, hesitant and tearful. "Emily, Mom, I'm so sorry. Dad convinced me you were... I should have known better." I opened my arms and she fell into them. "Emily, can you forgive me?" I held her close. "There's nothing to forgive. Your father is very persuasive. I know that better than anyone." We talked for hours, rebuilding the connection that James had tried to sever. Later, as I walked through the Capitol building, I marveled at the journey that had brought me here. 6 months ago, I had been a political wife, standing in the background, supporting someone else's ambitions. Now I had the opportunity to make a real difference. My phone buzzed with a text from Diane. "Approval rating at 62%. Media requesting interviews about your first initiatives. You're a rock star." I smiled, slipping the phone back into my pocket In my office, I placed a new photo on my desk: Michael, Emily, and me at the victory party, our arms around each other, smiling. The past could not be changed. James had betrayed me, tried to destroy me, underestimated me. But in doing so, he had inadvertently set me free. Free to find my voice. Free to fight for what I believed in. Free to become the woman I was always meant to be. As I settled behind my desk to review my first piece of legislation, a bill expanding protection for domestic abuse survivors, I reflected on the strange path that had led me here. I had lost a husband but found myself. I had been betrayed but discovered my strength. I had been silenced but reclaimed my voice. And now, that voice would speak for those who had been ignored for too long. Justice, it seemed, just needed time. The end.